What's going on, football fans? It's me, J.R. Clark, back again with another Pound for Pound ATL Live. Joined as always by my co-host Jonathan Holder. Jonathan, what's up, brother?
Man, doing pretty good. Would be doing better if things had turned out differently on Sunday, but we got 16 more of these. Let's try to get back a little bit this coming week.
Oh man, you had to remind me we have 16 more of them, don't you?
Yep.
Didn't you? Like, I almost much rather stick in the off season where hope springs eternal, and it's all a bunch of what ifs, and we can convince ourselves that it's going to be, good time and it's going to be different this time. Yet somehow, new coaching staff, new starting quarterback, new major defensive players, and somehow still end up doing the same thing and looking the same. So we got a good bit to talk about today. So without much further ado, let's just go ahead and get into it. Willie Doc, you are correct. That is Eddie Goldman.
That is
Hey,
indeed.
I pay my bets. I pay my debts. The man actually on day one or like game one suited up, took snaps and played for the Falcons, and only saw like maybe one or two mistakes by him. So um we'll we'll go with it. And he at least for a little while gets to be the background for the show. He says, Willie says, give me a second, home ballers. Yep, I'll wait for you. I'll wait for you because, yeah. All right. So, as you all seen it by now, you even saw my little rant on Monday, but the Atlanta Falcons had their first game, played the Steelers at home, and promptly lost to a team that they didn't give up a touchdown to. The thing that we were touting all off season as should be the strength of the team, the offense, was what actually let you down. A lot of confusing things from a fan perspective as far as like choices made. You had a couple good drives, but for the most part, it was a team that looked discombobulated, looked out of sorts, looked out of sync, looked rusty, like
Yeah.
looked like they hadn't played a snap in a year. And guess what? Like, I get it. Like, I'll at least give Raheem credit. Like, he didn't back down off of it, and he didn't change his stance. But this is the kind of like when you come out looking like this
Mhm.
does not help your decision to not play anybody in the preseason.
Well, it doesn't help it if you don't want to have to answer questions about it anymore. Because he can say, um, you know, as long as I'm head coach, this is how it's going to be because he has said that. And so, but at the end of the day, you come out of the first. If we come out of the first week losing this game, but like we actually looked okay, decent on offense and on defense. It's just maybe great plays were made on them and what have you. That's one thing. Defense I think played really well. I think the defense, especially like one of my favorite things, favorite parts of the game on Sunday was right before we had our last, or basically before the second interception. We kick it off. We kick it back to him on a punt, and we get down to it, and it's like there's 4 something minutes, 5 minutes, whatever, and we're like, we need to stop. And like, how many times in the past have we, as Falcons fans, whether it was last year, which we even had a decent defense last year, but how many times have we gotten to the end of a game like that? Especially this game, like I was not expecting the defense to bow up because they had lost like majorly lost the time of possession battle
Right.
in the second half, and but we needed that stop, and 3 plays in a row we made big plays, ending with the Judon/Jarrett sack
Right.
to get us the ball back, give us one more shot. They gave us they did their thing. They gave us a shot, and then we couldn't capitalize on it. We couldn't get our stuff together.
Right. So Fred Butts with $2.
Thank
Appreciate
you,
you,
Mr.
Fred.
Butts.
He says, just rust. Defense played great on the week too. And yeah, I mean that's hopefully, and we'll see, right?
Yeah.
But we'll get into that deeper as we go. All right, Willie Doc with $10. We appreciate you greatly,
Thank you,
Willie.
Mr. Willie.
He says he's gonna kick us off with his ballers and fallers. His baller was Grady Jarrett. Yep, Grady looked great coming off of his Achilles. Was his Achilles as well? Or was his?
Grady was. I think his was a knee.
Yeah.
But
Anyway, so his injury, come back from his injury, looked great.
yeah.
He says, Faller, Raheem, you knew Cousins wasn't ready and you put him in the pistol? Question mark. Which again, we're gonna get into that. Honorable mention Bijan. Yeah. I mean, if anybody wanted like Bijan to get number one running back usage, sure did. Side eye glance. Zach Robinson, you didn't adjust the O at all. Fail. This was a question I posed a week or so ago on Twitter. Is anybody concerned that we're rolling into the season with an inexperienced, play callers as far as at the NFL level and two just in general?
Yeah.
So we just have to see if he can adjust and learn as well. Chris says, how about our wide receiver number one, Ray McLeod?
So like the crazy thing is the play he made on the I'm not 100% sure if it was a pass or if it was technically a fumble
Right.
or what, but the pass that like just kind of fluttered in the air and then he goes up and catches it. I made a comment on Twitter about this, like when you see things like that happen, when stuff like that happens against your team, it's almost like, oh, the football gods are trying to tell me something.
Uh-huh.
But then the other side of the coin is when something happens for your team and it benefits you, then it's like, oh, the football gods are trying to tell me something. So like I was feeling good even though we gave up that field goal at the end of the first half, like I felt good
right
coming out of halftime. I was like, okay.
Well, yeah, I mean, we had kind of started clicking on that in the second quarter as far as offensively, and yeah, so Jerry says Grady had an ACL. Okay, thank you for my mind blanked on that. Tony says, as I stayed the entire summer, I really like our defense. Would like to see the rookies, a little bit more in the rotation. Maybe if the game isn't like to the nail, you'll probably get to see some of that coming in.
But I think the big thing was like Dorless and Rook are very much
inactive.
Well, they're inactive, but I think they're very much in the pass rush camp. Rook for sure. Rook is definitely much more of a penetrating defensive tackle.
Yeah, and you had a run heavy team. You knew that's what they were going to do.
You knew they were going to be run heavy, and so that's why you have guys like Eddie Goldman on. They were active because they were your run stuffers.
Mm-hmm. Friend of the show, Carrie says, "Hey guys, checking in. Witnessed my first ever Falcons loss in person.
Oof.
Still in shock with the offensive showing. Yeah. What are your thoughts on Kirk not healthy, mentally, or bad play calling? I'm confused. Yeah, we're going to get into all of that. All right. We're going to let King do his ballers and fallers, then we'll get into ours. Ballers, Bijan, Grady, and Judon, but fallers is AJ, Kirk, Ra, and Zach. Half team. I mean, he uses Pitts completely wrong. I'm starting to wonder if there's a right way to use Pitts. It seems like nobody can use him right. So we'll see. Again, game one. That's what I keep trying to remind myself. Game one. All right. Anyway, here we go. Here's our baller and faller. All right, we're going. There it is. All right. So the baller. Now, this is like my choice, Jonathan. If you don't agree, you can
Okay.
definitely chime in. But my choice was I put one too many slides in here. Bam! Grady Jarrett. Man looked awesome coming back off of his injury. Looked like, dude on a mission.
Yeah.
Also looked like he was a beneficiary of having, consistent D line help. So I was pleased with Grady's showing. I could have picked like just the entire defense, but also figure if we're going to talk about Grady, we can then talk about the defense. So, is there anybody else that you would personally like to highlight?
If we're going like as a like, I would maybe go with like Judon, just because like first game after his injury, first game playing for the Falcons. He comes in and at a crucial time of the game where we needed him to show up. He showed up and did his thing, and we got the first red sleeve celebration
That's
after
right.
sack. As a Falcon. So like if I was going to give it to anybody else, it would probably be him. I know I'm pretty sure I think Landman was the highest graded.
Landman had a really good game. Like
Uh,
him and Troy, like Caden had 100% of the defensive snaps, and Landman, um, like Landman and Troy pretty much split the other one. So that was good to see how they did that, and I thought they did. I thought Landman played really well, so I was
yeah.
glad to see him back. All right, on to dun 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 the Falla.
Mm-hmm.
And arrows pointing down, at least for this week. Kirk Cousins, because and might consider it to be like low hanging fruit. I could have put Zach Robinson here, could have put Caleb McGarry here, but you spent all offseason stressing to us that you were healthy, and even press conference yesterday, or doubling down. Oh, Kirk's healthy. Kirk's healthy. Well, buddy, you didn't look like it. Like to a point where like we're all talking about it this week. I've seen more quarterback Achilles experts on my Twix timeline than I think have ever existed. I got more people trying to break down how, he was, you could definitely tell that he's still injured and all this other jazz. And I'm sitting there going, it's ridiculous. Like if you are injured still, if you're not able to be 100%, not able to, then you shouldn't be out there. Like, not necessarily 100%. Nobody's ever 100%, whatever. You know what I'm saying? Is you have made your living as a under center play action pass quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's what you have done. We had the same we didn't have it, but the same discussion was had in the Chiefs Ravens game last year when Lamar didn't run. Like when this is how you have made your bread and butter, your bones in the NFL, and then you go a whole game without doing it. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So whether he is like strapped up saying, do you guys still think he's injured? I think he was just rusty and the OC was protecting him. Okay. If that's the case, this is when that points back to the preseason.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I get it. You want to mitigate injury. You want to make sure you make it to the regular season with all your guys intact. But if that's the case, then basically what you're doing is you're turning the first game into a fourth preseason game. And you're punting on that game. This ain't baseball. This
Yeah.
ain't, NBA where you got 80 some odd games. You got 17 of these things. Every one of them count. And this ain't college where you have the eye test and rankings and all this other stuff to get you in. You get in by your schedule. Like you get in by your wins and losses first and foremost. And the more you punt one down the road, the you start the season now behind the 8 ball. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying?
Yeah. And it's a situation we didn't want to be in. We wanted to, I really, you know, we should have beaten Pittsburgh on Sunday. Okay. And if we come out of the first 3 games 1-2 with having won that game, cool. I was prepared for that. There's a very real shot we could be 0-3. And I'll say this: if we do lose the next 2 weeks to Philadelphia and Kansas City, like losing to those guys, losing to those teams, there's no shame in that whatsoever. Like but what I'm looking for now is let's go and let's look like we're a put together team. Like 2 of the 3 phases, I think, played really well. I think special teams played pretty good, and I think the defense played really well. And I think the offense had moments where you could kind of sort of see it. But the problem is that we were just way too predictable on
Yeah.
offense, and that if he was in the pistol, I want to say it was something like 80% or more of the snaps under pistol were runs.
Yes.
There was I think there was only 1 play action out of the pistol.
No, there was they didn't run a single play action.
They ran, I think they ran 1.
Okay, that was the jet sweep, which wasn't really a play action.
No,
That's what I'm saying. You talking about?
There was I think there was at least 1 play action in the game, but you got to have way more than that. But the problem was it wasn't that you didn't even have play action. To be completely honest, like do you need it? Do we need to have that going forward? Absolutely, but the problem is like when you were in the pistol formation, it was almost always going to be a run.
Yeah.
When you were in the shotgun formation, it was almost always going to be a pass.
Yeah, there was no. Yeah,
and the problem is like when you're going against a team that has, especially a team that has a guy like a JJ Watt. Okay, that dude is really, really good. He's a really good and smart football player. And when you have like a run in the first half where you have 2 tight ends on one side, you motion one to the right, and then you hand off to the left, and you have that tight end come back in. They leave JJ Watt unblocked. Early in the game, they ran that play. They get a good chunk of yardage out of like 8-9 yards or something like that. And then later on in the game, they run the exact same play to the exact same side, and everything. And they're running away from JJ Watt. JJ Watt sees this formation pop up. He immediately sees it, and he goes from being super wide. He closes down to the line, and when he does that, he's then able to chase down. And granted, he wasn't having to chase Bijan this time. He was chasing Algier the second time, but still, it's likely he would have caught Bijan as well. But he was able to just immediately, he knew exactly what was coming, and he just crashed down the line and was able to stop the run. So you didn't have anything that built off of that play, right? So you didn't have, okay, we showed them this earlier, okay, and we ran this way and we got whatever. We didn't then say, let's show them the exact same thing, but do something different out of it.
And see, that's the thing is like, okay, I get it 100%. Like, there are going to be growing pains. You have a new head coach, an offensive play caller who has never called plays, anywhere, like outside of preseason for the Rams. Zach Robinson has never called plays. Like, the things that I was concerned about are what showed up. Now, how long do they stay is a whole different question entirely. I was kind of in my feels a little bit, so to speak, on Monday. I think it was Monday. Yeah, because today's Tuesday. So it was yesterday. And I told folks, like, if y'all think me, calling it the way I see it as being overly negative, then don't tune in tonight. Now, I think Fred may have thought I was talking to him. I wasn't. He ain't the only one that says it, but he says he has no beef with me. I just get annoyed when everybody when negative about the Falcons. Just letting you know what personal. No, it never is personal. Like I don't. I started this channel because of getting tired of hearing nothing but negative. But unfortunately, when you put a bad product out on the field, that's what you're going to get, right? And the irony of this game for like the sarcastic nature, I wish there was like a way I could really do like sarcastic fonts on Twitter and stuff like that, because there's plenty of times that I say something just pop off out of pure sarcasm. But the irony of this game is not lost on me. You had Arthur Smith come in and beat you by not scoring a touchdown in the most Arthur Smith way possible. You just fired the man and ran him out of town, rightfully or wrongfully so. I don't care, because of bad quarterback play. And you go out and sign a $180 million quarterback, draft another quarterback in the first round just to have bad quarterback play in the first game. Again, I will continue to stress first game. If the trajectory starts to go up from here, even if we're still losing, but like you said, it's starting to look better, all this will be forgotten by the end of the season. But here today, 2 days removed from the week one of an atrocious showing, unfortunately, Raw and Zach Robinson and all those guys are going to have to take it on the chin, because it was the same feeling that we had all year last year and the year before. And like Emmanuel's like, the defense held up, once they got in the red zone, but did they have any 3 and outs? If they did, it definitely wasn't a bunch. And again, he makes a point. He's like, against a bad offense. Here's something I want y'all to see if you haven't already seen it. That right there is Justin Fields' spray chart. Do you see something missing here?
Yep.
So, yes, kudos to the defense, but you played against a quarterback that was not the starter, who just got installed as the starter the week before, like a few days before. So far be it for me to pound the table for the defense when you were essentially, all you had to do was stop the run. You gave up like these two right here, like this one right here for sure. Like AJ got torched. Like George Pickens made AJ look silly. You didn't have many of those, only 2. But that was
technically the other one I wasn't on AJ. That was on the safety.
Right.
On Bates.
Right. That was on Bates. But I'm saying this one over here is I ain't talking about all of them just being on AJ. Yeah. But you didn't have many deep shots, but you gave them both up, which then gets them into field goal range.
Yeah.
Now, back to sorry, I just read another PR's comment. He says, hello, everyone. We drank the Kool-Aid again, didn't we? That is, yeah. Like there's a part of me that's like, the more things change, the more it stays the same. Like I was at a pure like scheduling conflict. I was at the Braves game Sunday while the Falcons game was going on. And we had made our way to the little Xfinity suite, which, was really nice if you ain't ever been there. It's free to get into. And they had the Falcons game on. So I'm at the Braves game, basically watching the Falcons game. And at some point in time, I was like, yeah, this is the same old feeling. Like, hello, darkness, my old friend. You know, it's the same thing over and over again. Did I lose you, John? You look like you froze over there. Looks like I lost Jonathan. Maybe I lost Jonathan. I can hear his chair.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. You're frozen.
Yeah, everything is frozen on my screen. Like I can't do anything. You're frozen. Or everything's just froze. Uh,
Huh.
so I don't know. Like literally everything. I might end up having to reboot my laptop.
Okay. Well, if you need to do that, go ahead. I can rant for a little bit. If you need to drop out and reboot. Um, chat, can y'all still hear and see me? All my indications is that uh, everything looks good on my end. So I'm gonna remove you and let you figure out what you got going on. Okay. All right. Let's see. All right. He said. He said Jonathan's got that Falcons Sunday Wi-Fi. Let's see. Sorry. P for P or Millie Mill says P for P. What's up? What's going on, Millie? Okay, cool. I'm glad everything's still working on my end. Sometimes this stuff gets a little janky. So anyway, back to my rant. I'm with you, King. There's this thought process. It's like at some point you have to ask yourself, like, are we somehow just cursed? Is I'm starting to feel like we're cursed. Is it the uniform or what? Because we haven't been winning in these new threads yet. New threads, new house. Like we definitely haven't been winning. Like to a point where I busted out my Julio just because I gotta like something. You know. I will say the offensive coordinator is probably one of my biggest concerns because there was no in-game adjustment like at all. That was probably the most worrying trend for me is you saw what TJ Watt was doing and you didn't really do much to try to correct it. There was no like I'm going to run, you know, Tyler Algier out there or when you did try to like Pitts' blocking is a joke. We all know it's a joke and that's fine. But let's not ask him to do it. Let's not ask him to try to chip TJ Watt. So, get uh Charlie Warner over there. That's why you signed him. And thanks Charlie Warner for, you know, procedural failure on the one fumble, which was ridiculous. I mean, these are the things that you work on as far as also working on in preseason. I know that sounds like such a broken record, but when you're watching Kirk Cousins motion the guy, then try to stop him, like, what are we doing? You know? And Charlie Warner comes across the formation, and right about the time they snap the ball, and there goes the fumble, and TJ Watt gets it. Like, if it wasn't for those two penalties, it would have been even worse. So, we'll see how they bounce back. There's part of me that really feels like this particular game, they felt like it wasn't going to take much to win. Like they weren't going to have to score much because of Pittsburgh's offense. That was Dooley. Okay. Sorry. Anyway, y'all know me. I'll get mixed up on some things, especially when I'm just sitting here like off the dome trying to remember it. But the lack of in-game adjustments is one thing. The not running any kind of like real full speed reps. I hear him with the whole, oh, we had 107, snaps in our in-house scrimmage, but even in your in-house scrimmage, you're not trying to go full speed. And you're not trying to really kill your your teammate, because at the end of the day, it's still your teammate. That's why for forever you had the tune-up in the third preseason game. And that tune-up was uh the starters played a half. And when you don't do that and then you come out looking like this, it's rough. It makes it rough. Um let's see. Let's get into chat here a little bit. Um Fred says, it's just me. Why can't the Bulldogs and the Falcons win on the same weekend? There are times I know in years past that I was like, oh God, if the Bulldogs won, I knew the Falcons weren't going to. And none of that makes any sense, but there's trends and patterns that I'm real big on pattern recognition, and there's trends and patterns that you see, and that's one of them. Alberto says, how would you grade Raheem? Would you think you would think being on the league as long as he should know how to make adjustments. That's one of my biggest concerns was the lack of adjustments on the offensive side of the ball. I don't think there was much that they needed to adjust on the defensive side because Pittsburgh was limited and you knew Pittsburgh was going to be limited. So I don't think that there was much that they needed to adjust. They played it pretty well. They kept them out of the end zone, and their kicker making a 56 and a 57 yarder. That's these kickers are getting better. So you almost pretty much have to stop somebody at the 40 to ensure that they aren't in field goal range. Joel says, "Hey Jr., should I start panicking or should I wait until week 4? The next 2 weeks are going to be tough. The next 2 weeks are going to be rough. We just need to see if we are actually able to operate and if we do things in the right way. So I don't expect to win the next 2 games. I hope that we look better offensively. So no, I would wait until week 4 unless by the end of the Chiefs game we're talking about the same thing. If we're talking about the same thing, then yes, I'm going to tell you to start panicking after tomorrow or after this week. So let's see. I knew we should have drafted him. Oh, you're talking about? I think it was Zach Bond. Yeah, he looked really good for the Eagles. Let's see. Another PR says, "Imagine I live near Tampa. All I have to go and crawl under a rock or something." Yeah, I know. Baker looked really good. Um, didn't look like he was missing Dave Canellis at all. Let's see. I will say this: the one lone touchdown. Okay, that's the negatives, right? Let's focus on some positives. Let's not spend the whole hour or however long I could talk to myself, um, just absolutely crushing the team. So let's talk about some of the positives. Some of the positives being the play design that did get Pitts the touchdown. That was like in this whole time in this league in his career, I have not seen Pitts that wide open. So that was nice to see. And I thought that there were times where we looked like we were starting to get into sync. So let's see here. I was going to get some stats pulled up so we have some things to look at because I don't know about y'all, but I'm a visual person. All right, so player stats, Falcons. So Kirk Cousins, 6 for 26, 155, 1 touchdown, and 2 interceptions. That is a Desmond Ritter stat line if I've ever seen one. I chuckled when I was like, good Lord, that right there is an Arthur Smith quarterback. Because as a matter of fact, look, 7 for 20, 23, 156. The only difference is he didn't throw no touchdowns or interceptions. The turnovers is what really killed us.
Yeah,
But hey, you're back.
I am back.
Hey, so the turnovers are what really like did us in. But like Bijan, for the most part, had a pretty productive game. 3.8 yards rushing, not the end of the world. But as you said earlier, as we talked about earlier, you were telegraphing when you were going to run the ball. So it became easy to shut it down. Tyler Algier, he needs to get more than 3 carries. They got to figure out that workload.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, like what I said, I was talking to my brother after the game on Sunday.
one second, John.
Sorry, go ahead.
Willie, you shut your mouth. Sorry.
Whatever.
Anyway, sorry. Go ahead. You're talking to your brother. Go for it.
So I was talking to my brother, and I said, what I would probably like to see personally. Okay, I don't mind Bijan getting snaps to run the ball in the first half, but I'd actually like to see like Algier be a guy that early in the game gets quite a few snaps to where you basically just pound him into the dirt for uh, for like the first half, 2.5 quarters, and then if you've done things successfully at that point, then you switch up to more of a Bijan heavy focus in the run game, and you give him that last quarter and a half or so to really like, now you're running against a beaten down and fatigued line and linebackers that have had to try to sit there and tackle, Tyler Algier all day, and now he can kind of, some of those tackles that that he maybe would have gotten on him earlier in the game, he's able to get away from those later in the game. That's just my thought on that. So,
Yeah, and I'm with you there. Like, I still think, like, at least right now, that the split should be more, um, closer to like 60-40 kind of deal, with Bijan and Tyler. So on to the receiving part. Another like big deal is like you only had 2 targets or 2 receptions for Drake. The fact that after game one, Raheem's like, "Oh man, we have to get Drake more involved." I hate when I hear coaches say that. That I don't know why, but that just aggravates the tar out of me.
yeah.
Uh, so you had our number one wide receiver for this week, Ray McLeod, and he looked pretty good. Like he looked like a forgotten man in a sense of like was able to come open. Bijan, what in the passing game was used the way I liked in the sense of some good like screens and check downs and the
Yeah.
things that we highlighted in the summer, and it showed well. 5 receptions, 46 yards, 8.6 yards average. So uh I
Yeah,
was
you get
happy
it. You
with that.
get him in a position where he's either the check down guy, like the safety valve, or you get him out like, you get him coming out of the backfield. He's more than likely in most situations going to be on a linebacker, and that is a favorable matchup in 99% of cases.
Like they tried to work the middle of the field where the Steelers defense was weak, but the offensive line with TJ Watt and Cameron Hayward, they just couldn't hold up. Like with it because like you said, or like we stated, that was the first time they've seen live reps with somebody trying to rip their head off
I
outside
will
of
say
what
this.
the 2
I
days they practiced against Miami.
Yeah. I will say this. If you, from an offensive play calling standpoint, become as predictable as we were, I honestly don't care what offensive line you put in front of that Pittsburgh defense will probably very likely be, if not the best, it'll probably be one of the very best defenses we play all season long.
Yeah, I mean,
And if you give Hightower and Hayward and Watt and those guys, you give them time to like figure out exactly what you're doing, which is what they did because we were running the same plays. We were only, if we were in shotgun, it was always pass. If we were in pistol, it was majority of the time going to be a run. If in those scenarios, um, if they get a beat on you, and there's no play action pass game, there's no anything like that. I don't care what offensive line you put that really great Dallas Cowboys offensive line from like a few years back when they had the basically number one offensive line in football. you could put that offensive line in front of that Steelers defense, and if they ran all the same plays in exactly the same way we did, the outcome is probably going to be a lot similar to that.
Oh yeah. No, and I agree. They like Robinson has to do better next week.
Yes, yes,
Like, and I can't say that he can't know that. You know what I'm saying? Like he has to do better. Whether it was, hey, we just got to work through this, and that's the reason why we're being static and stagnant. You can't do that and expect to win. Now, Sean McVay was famous for using the same personnel, but he switched up the looks and play designs and stuff like that. So if Zach Robinson is this next wonderkin, he's gonna have to, be able to switch it up and dial it up more than anything else. The biggest disparity, in my opinion, was again you're unable to convert on third downs. You got your 1 4th down play, which was, hey, when was the last, like, if you want to, we talk about a lot of crap here. When was the last time you saw a 4th down conversion from the Falcons go like that? That was a nice,
yes.
that little jet sweep to Robinson. He got good chunky yardage on that one.
Well, and because you said the window dressing was you had Tyler Algier in the backfield.
Yeah.
And then you motion him to one side, and then so everybody's bunched up, either thinking quarterback sneak or hand to Algier, up the gut, and that's a big dude to try to bring down in a short yardage situation. So yeah, absolutely, that was a great call. And like, how many times have we seen, on the flip side of that, as far as if we're talking about 4th downs, how many times have we seen on the other side of that where Fields gets up there, they're about to do basically their version of the tush push, or whatever, and that was the play Landman really showed up.
Dude, he looked like Troy Polamalu jumping the pile and
yeah, he did,
grabbing Landman. It was great. I mean, grabbing Fields. It was awesome. But I agree with the manual here. Like, this next game is like, it's time to take the training wheels off of Kirk, and see if he can do it. Like, to see if he's good, because not that I think it's time to play Penix, but if he can't do it, then that's fine. You get to show that you're the smartest person in the room, so to speak, and you need to put in Penix before you get too far behind the 8 ball. Now, you're going to look, if you do that and Penix plays well, you're going to look somewhat foolish in the amount of money you paid Cousins, but that's whatever at this point. Let's see. Some other things to look at. They weren't penalized too much, so I was happy about that. Time of possession was a big thing. You knew that you were going to be fighting the clock with an Arthur Smith team. That's why I laughed. Like, this was an Arthur Smith game, and you let him play it to perfection. He didn't need to get into the end zone. He just needed to keep the ball away from you. And when you did get the ball, you turned it over 3 times.
Yep.
With 2 interceptions and a fumble. So, are those things, like, are the interceptions and the fumbles fixable? Yes. Those things tend to clean themselves up. Especially with this veteran of a crew as we got. We have to hope and pray that this chalks up more to rust than to anything else. Because if it comes down to it being like healthy, to me that's a bigger issue. Because like John H says, what it comes down to is either Kirk Cousins isn't healthy and we're just not being told that, or Zach Robinson may in fact not be ready to be an offensive coordinator. Now look, that's always a possibility on the, like, as we said, not everybody's destined to be a head coach, and not every position coach is destined to be a coordinator. I hate to put it to you like this, but look at the running backs coach for Shanahan. Because you were talking about somebody else put up here that Shanahan, Alberto says 49ers had an undrafted running back run the ball down one of the best defenses. We have Bijan and Algier. I'm dumbfounded. Like, so you look at that last night, right? And that their running backs coach has been with the Shanahans since Mike Shanahan in Denver.
Yeah.
And that man knows his lane, knows what he's good at, and has stuck with it. And he has been able to produce countless undrafted like running backs and made them into something. So again, not every position coach is meant to be a coordinator. So we're going to find out if Robinson is the next wonderkid.
Yeah. I mean, we're gonna find out. Being a rookie coordinator, I'm willing to give him let's see if he can learn. Let's see how quickly he can learn. You know, I there's 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 nothing there's nothing wrong with hey, first day on the job, nerves, all that jazz, and things don't quite go the way you thought it was going to
Right.
go. Okay. And I don't have a problem with whenever we've had new hires at my job, we have had people that the first couple weeks there, just they were miserable because they didn't feel like they were doing well. They didn't feel like this and that and the other. But you give them time, you let them learn and get better and everything, and then a couple weeks later, they're feeling much better. They're doing better, and it's one of those situations where might have some early struggles trying to get that part figured out. And so hopefully that begins and we see that progress this week. You have to have you cannot. I don't care who you are in this league. You if you run the ball, which we ran the ball early on, we ran the ball pretty good. At least we ran the ball enough. Okay, we didn't break anything big. We were close on a couple, but we didn't break anything big. But the thing is sometimes you don't necessarily need your running game to be the thing that wins you the game. You need it to be a piece of the puzzle that helps you to win the game, which is we just got to run enough to where they got to think about it. And as long as they're able to think about it and we can make them keep that in their minds, now we do the play. You have to have play action pass. You can't. I don't care if it's in the pistol. I don't care if it's in shotgun. You can do play action pass in those formations. There's no excuse why you cannot call a play action pass out of pistol. There's no reason why you can't do a play action pass type of situation out of shotgun. You can do those things and make them, even if all it does is just make them stick around for just a split second. That split second can be the difference between a successful play and a not successful play.
Right.
So,
no, I completely agree. Millie says, but on the bright side, Coach Lake showed something this week, and Judon's going to be fun to watch this year. Yeah. Judon's going to be fun. I really hope, Ebiketie steps up. He looked active. So I'm excited, for Grady and the interior of the defensive line because they looked really good, especially against the run. I mean, you only gave up, let's see, you gave up a little over 100 yards rushing to a team that's all they did was run the ball. So, I mean, you held Najee Harris to 3.5 yards a carry. Jalen Waddle 3.5. You kept everybody except for Fields, but that's kind of weird with the, QB runs and stuff like that. They weren't necessarily design runs, but you did good on, locking down their run game.
Yep. Emmanuel here talk about Storm Norton. Might need to lace up his cleats again. He did look good last year. What I will say is very few weeks in the NFL are you going to go up against a guy like a J.J. Watt.
TJ Watt.
TJ Watt.
I feel let it slide the first time, but
All right. TJ Watt. Okay, TJ Watt is, if not the best, he is right up there in the conversation of best pass rushers in the NFL right now, bar none. Right.
right.
So you're not going to have to block against that dude every single week. You're rarely going to come across guys that are even close to as good as he is. All right. So that's one thing. Okay.
Yeah.
Two, I would say that there were times where he was probably expecting help from a Pitts block, and Pitts wasn't blocking for shit. He
No, and
wasn't
that's
doing very good blocking at all. And like I remember, I saw on a sack that he had, they brought Pitts over. Pitts was supposed to chip him. He touched him, like he touched him, and then literally JJ Watt just got on his horse, and TJ Watt got on his horse, and like Caleb McGarry did everything he possibly could. He literally turned and just started running to try to get to JJ or TJ Watt, and just couldn't do it because I mean that dude's
he's lightning quick. Yeah.
Yeah, and so in that scenario, like he was probably expecting to get more help from Pitts. When he didn't, he tried to run as hard as he could to at least get a hand on TJ, and couldn't get there. But that's TJ Watt again. Are there going to be a ton of guys out there that can do that kind of stuff? No.
Well, the deal like with that is like Dwayne Ledford should know by now the flaws of a Caleb McGarry. Mm-hmm. And the game plan should have been like, especially after you watch like the first time or two of Pitts not being able to, or not blocking, or not being able to block, or what have you, then that's when it should have been like, okay, we need to switch up some stuff. You should have had some things prepared in the eventuality that, well, hey, look, I'm not going to let this guy wreck the game. And TJ Watt essentially wrecked the game. Yeah. Like he kept you out of sync. He kept you out of rhythm. And this is the second year in a row that, the offensive line has started off slowly. Like last year it took, Chris Lindstrom a couple games to really get into form. That's why I'm like, if I'm a head coach, I am putting like all preseason games, I'm putting my starting O-line out there for at least, a handful of series. And there's going to be at least a game where I'm playing my starting O-line at least a half. Because not only did you have, McGarry scrambling, and you had Lindstrom looking a little sluggish, you had Drew Dahlman with a bad snap. Like the only one who didn't look overly like out of place was Jake Matthews. So there were stretches throughout that whole game where the offensive line looked like they, guess what, hadn't played yet. That's the one thing I keep like shaking my head about.
And that very well could be like, look, at the end of the day, we could come out of this season winning 10, 11, 12 games or whatever. We're happy about how that works. Yeah. And you know what's going to end up happening? Next year, the same thing's going to happen. No starters, no nothing. And we may just be but if we get our stuff together, after week one, and that becomes just a thing, like week one, we always start slow. Maybe we come out with wins sometimes because the other team comes out even slower, but if that's what it is, but we're able to get it going again after that, like get it going in the right direction, then it is what it is. But we don't know that yet. We hope that's the case. We hope that come this time next week that we're looking to be like, all right, well, that was, and again, I'm going to look at this game. Do I want to win this game? Absolutely, because I hate Philadelphia. I think their coach has the most punchable face probably in the entire NFL. Literally
he does have a pretty punchable face.
And so what I love to, especially going into Philly, and giving them an early season loss where their people are going to be talking about, like, is Jalen Hurts the guy? They're like, Jalen Hurts was not the guy that won the game for them this past weekend or this past week. Like, he did enough to win, but it wasn't like he was super Hurts, or anything like that. Like, he had an okay, he had a decent game. That was
Yeah.
about it. But their defense was really good, and what have you. So, like, to be able to do that, yeah, absolutely, I would love to. But I'm going to say this: if we come out of this game and that offense looks better prepared, and the defense is looking, like they're able to build off of week one, regardless of what you want to think about the offense that they played. Okay, because how many times have we talked about defenses? An Atlanta Falcons defense that looked good goes up against an offense that is a poor offense, and they all of a sudden they get right. How many times were we
Oh
a
yeah,
get right game
we've been a get
for
right game for a
teams?
lot. Yep.
So we were not a get right game for their offense. Like, their offense, for the points that they got, they had to work hard to get the points that they got, right? And so at the end of the day, if the defense can just build off of what they did, and at least show up, and be a part of, not be a part of the problem, but be a part of the solution. And if the offense can come out and look closer, if not all the way to what we think it's going to be, against a Philadelphia defense that's probably going to be really good again. I mean, it looked good this. They gave a bunch of points, but it still looked good.
Yeah.
And so if we can come out of this with looking like a more team that's ready to actually start the NFL season, then I'll be okay with, if it's a close loss, the ball just didn't bounce our way, all this stuff. I'll be okay with that. I'm okay, because if you're close, you're not always going to beat the likes of the Philadelphia Eagles. You're not always going to beat the likes of the Kansas City Chiefs. You're not going to always beat those teams in those close games. Sometimes the ball just doesn't bounce your way. Sometimes the other guy makes a really great play. You can't, it is what it is. But I just want to see us, look more competent,
Yep.
and well coached.
Yep. That's the thing, is that what that's why the thumbnail right now says unimpressed. Right now, I am unimpressed with the debut that they had. Like,
Yep.
winning cures all. We've said it and have had to say it for years.
Yep.
You start winning, and you're going to, like everything will be forgiven. And it won't be brought up that you didn't start nothing or what have you in preseason or what have you. But if you go on a massive losing streak and you start like 0-5, 0-6, yeah, this fan base is going to turn on you real quick,
Oh
because
yeah.
this fan base is tired of losing.
Yep.
Now,
It absolutely, and I am not going to sit there and be like, just calm down, people.
no, I
Like,
can't. Yeah,
6, okay, that's way, way.
and like, I wish I still had like Fred Butts' optimism. He says we're beating the Eagles and the Chiefs, and then three straight division games. You heard it here first. So you're
I
talking
mean,
about being
I definitely say we're beating the Panthers. Like, that Panthers team looked atrocious. Like,
yeah.
offensively, defensively, everything looked bad. Like, their defense, they didn't, like, unless there's some guy that I'm not aware of. Like, they don't have the guy that we always had to worry about, and now they lost, what's his
Derek
face,
Derek Brown.
Derek Brown. So Derek Brown won't be there. Burns is not there. Like, who else is there on that defense?
Right.
So, like, I'm not
Well, like,
like,
I'll put you, like, somebody was talking about like the Saints OC Clint Kubiak racked up. Yeah, okay. I would much rather my rookie OC go up against the Panthers than go up against one of the more well coached and talented defensive fronts that you're going to face. Like,
yeah,
so that's definitely um I'd much rather have gone up against the freaking Panthers, but oh
yeah,
well. We drew the Steelers, and I hope that was a. I hope that it was an eye-opening lesson. So Alberto says, "So guys, what's the strategy to win an away game against the tough Eagles?" I haven't necessarily like broke into like the weaknesses of the Eagles yet per se, but uh the Green Bay Packers were able to move the ball. You know, the Eagles they don't have as dominant of a front as the Steelers have. They got some names that we like, you know, Jalen Carter and uh Jordan
Jordan Davis.
Davis, right? Like, you know what I'm saying? They got names that down here we like, but as of right now, those guys haven't necessarily been a dominant force in the NFL. Um, Jalen Carter was making boneheaded mistakes on the Eagles line for them against the Green Bay, causing penalties and stuff like that. So I think that we should have maybe a better time of keeping like Kirk clean, but
Mm,
that's saying that he can actually do what he's supposed to do. Until we see it, it's going to
yeah.
be a question mark.
Yep.
And
And it's like, you know, we just need to, from a offensive standpoint, we need to run the ball, and we need to actually get into our play action bag. Like the running game doesn't have to be super duper successful for you to be able to run play action.
no,
It just
there's
needs to,
there's
again,
there's
you
no
just need
actual correlation to that.
you just need to be you need to be successful enough. Like, I mean, you can't be talking 1 yard 1 yard per carry kind of successful. You got to be 2.5, 3, 3.5. You got to be in that range to be considered successful, right? Probably, like in my mind, as long as you're getting at least three yards, then that's something that when you fake it, they've got to think about it, right?
I
Um,
mean, let's see, the Packers gave up, or I mean, the Eagles gave up 5.2 yards a carry to Josh Jacobs and or like an average of 5.2 yards and then an average of 11.5 yards to Emmanuel Wilson. So we should be able to run the ball on them. And like this should be a game where our passing attack should be able to come alive. I mean, Jordan Love passed for 260 yards on 34 attempts, 2 touchdowns and an interception. So this should be a game where we should be able to attack Philly's defense. Now, the big thing for us, and Fred said it a handful of times, is going to be like stopping Saquon Barkley. Like Saquon, like had a dominant game. He had 24 carries for 109 yards and 2 touchdowns. Between the rushing attack of him and Hurts being able to use his feet, uh, and I think what was it? You got to like Hurts don't want to throw down over the middle of the field. He's in this new vein of quarterback that doesn't necessarily want to throw over the middle. He wants to use the sidelines. So you have to be able to shut those down. Like you're going to be defending against AJ Brown and Devontae Smith. Like that's not going to be easy.
no,
So yeah, it's going to be a tough game.
I think like it's very likely we'll see a lot of zone. Um, unless they're going to start, bringing some blitz packages. But my hope here is that we actually get to see at least Rook, if not both him and Dorless. But I'd like to see both those guys in this game this week. Um, but especially Rook. I'd really like to see him get in there on opposite Grady or what have you. Zach Harrison, I saw him show up some, so it was nice to see that. It was nice. I mean, it was very nice to see Zach Harrison playing out there and playing well. And
Right.
same thing, I want to see Rook out there. I want to see him, getting those snaps, getting those reps. Getting more familiar with the position, more familiar with the NFL. Um, but yeah, I want to see that. But like from a defensive standpoint, like yeah, you got probably more. You're going to have more talent on the outside than you did against Pittsburgh. Um, they still got Goddard. Who's their
Yep.
tight ends?
Yeah, Goddard. It's Goddard. So yeah, I mean, it's I think offensively they're far more diverse than Pittsburgh.
Oh
So
yeah,
there's going to be a lot more things that you have to defend. So they're gonna have to be
we need to
on their
see
stuff.
we need to see we need to see more pressure early to try to help to try to speed up his internal clock, and let's see if we can get some turnovers.
That's it. That's
Because
that's
that's
going to
the other
be.
thing.
We have to like the statement of the year. We have to limit turnovers and generate turnovers.
Yep.
If we are positive, very rarely do you win a football game being negative in the turnover column.
Yeah.
And so we have to be positive. We have to get and generate turnovers and keep ours down. So that's going to be the keys to that. Anyway, like I said, disappointing week one. It's not what we wanted to see. It's not what we uh Willie says, hey Chad, let's get those likes up. Likes up to 70. Yes, let's get those likes up.
Yes.
Like, share,
Absolutely.
comment, all that good fun stuff. We'll be with y'all throughout this season as we endure the Falconism that we all have. There is no cure for it other than winning.
Yeah.
You know,
And like I said, I want to see progress.
that's it.
See
That's the
progression.
biggest thing. You know,
Like
I want.
let me see things getting better. As long as it feels like we're on the right track, and progressing,
I'll say this.
then I'll be okay.
Uh, like Aaron Rodgers didn't look great last night, dealing with the same thing. He had a little bit more zip on his pass just because I think he's always had a more lively arm than Kirk Cousins. But he didn't look great last night. Both like there's only two quarterbacks. I'd have to find. Let's see if I can find the stat. Kind of made me chuckle. I don't think it's going to stay that way, but it was funny to see it. Let's see if I and then let's see if I can find it.
Oh, you by the way, you forgot like the the big move that happened today.
Oh, I didn't forget it. I just wasn't talking about it because like we signed Brandon Parker, and I was like, first of all, who's Brandon Parker and what is a Brandon Parker? Brandon Parker is an offensive tackle. So we finally filled the 53rd spot with an offensive lineman, bringing us to a total of 10 offensive linemen. But he's still nothing more than just a body, a
Yeah.
warm body. All right, so this is what I wanted to bring up. So, for bad as we feel, right, of what we had. Now, granted, we're dealing with a loss. They ended up winning, but there are only two quarterbacks in modern NFL history that have attempted over 25 passes in their debut and threw less than 100 yards. One of them being Desmond Ritter,
Yep.
and the other one being Caleb Williams. Like,
Yep.
so
Yeah, they won
I
that
saw that
game
and I was just like,
on special teams and defense.
that's it. So none of
Offense
the
couldn't do squat.
none of the rookies look good. Bo Nix didn't look good.
Like just
Caleb,
like offense in general, apparently, like if you look around the league, if we look at week one last year, there was something like 61, 62, 63, somewhere in that range, touchdowns thrown by QBs. All right. This past weekend, this was prior to the Monday night game, uh, but it's not going to affect the number dramatically. But prior to uh, the Monday night game, there was only like 31 passing touchdowns
Oh yeah, no,
Uh,
it was
offense
bad
was
all the way
down
around.
offense was down all over the league.
I hate to burst your bubble, Fred. I guess me and you, I burst your bubble quite a bit, but he no, like unless he is like actually gets hurt,
Yeah,
hurt your quarterback. They're not they're not putting it in.
because
I
because
hate to say they're not putting in Penix.
because here's the thing, you're not going to yank him, and then put Penix in, and then potentially have Penix be rough, and then yank him and put Kirk back in.
No, I mean,
Like
like
that's just you're not going to do that.
like I said, unless Kurt is actually hurt, and right now they're toting the line that he isn't. So unless he is actually hurt, you're not going to see Penix play. So all right, folks, I think that's gonna do it
Oh,
for us tonight. Oh, what? It says, hey,
right. Mekhi Becton's backup is guard center Matt Hennessy.
remember him? Oh, do I? Yes, he lost out to Drew Dahlman. So that's it. Hey, I saw it was Eric Salbert was on the 49ers.
Yep,
Now I was like, oh, good for you, Eric Salbert.
yep,
Found your your niche, so to speak. So
yep. And like I said, it's I am interested to see like what kind of adjustments are made
huh?
from a coaching perspective and from a team perspective this coming week.
You're fine. All right. Anyway, all right, folks. I think that's gonna do it for us. We've talked this one out. We appreciate y'all as always hanging out with us. Y'all
Yeah.
can follow me on the Twix at Grim1128. That's GRIMM1128. And you get to figure out how many of my tweets are sarcastic because there is no like sarcastic font. I had somebody like, I was making a comment about Brandon Parker and they were like, oh, he's just depth. And I'm like, yeah, I know that. Like, good Lord, I wish there was a font that would indicate that I'm being a jackhole. Yeah, hashtag sarcasm. Jonathan, where can they find you, my friend?
At Jonathan M. Holder, come by say hi.
There you go. Peace out there, Route 417. I appreciate all y'all. And
Peace.
we'll see y'all next week. I don't know if there'll be a Monday like overreaction Monday, considering we play on Monday and then we have our live show on Tuesday.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We might have we might still have an overreaction, but it might be about something other than the Falcons. Who knows? All right, folks. Love y'all. We'll holler at y'all later. As always, Falcons fans, rise up.
Peace, love, and chicken grease.
There it is.